Thank you everybody for tuning in today for our first edition of Tech Tuesday. This edition is all about cybersecurity. A lot of fascinating statistics about cybersecurity. And one of the main ways that you can prepare yourself is by knowing what hackers and other people with malintent are doing to get your information. So this will be not only a great way to protect yourself, but maybe more importantly, your clients as well, so that you can maintain your reputation. And hopefully it never happens, but if something weird were to happen, you could even save the day. So with no further ado, give it up everybody for Chris DeRosa and Sebastian Drywa. They are with the National Association of Realtors. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise today.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Welcome everyone to our cybersecurity awareness presentation. As Kevin mentioned, I am Chris DeRosa with the National Association of Realtors IT Group, and my co-presenter today is Sebastian, who is the Director of Cybersecurity here at NAR. So one of the things that I always like to start with is talking about the word awareness, because I want everyone to know this is not cybersecurity breaches will never happen to you. There's a magic formula. Don't worry about it. It's not true. So the most we can do actually is talk about the awareness. We want to raise your awareness about what the current cyber threats are, their implications, and talk about prevention, so that after a while, the things that you learn and pick up, etc., almost become muscle memory. That something strikes you as, oh, wait, I remember hearing about this. I need to be careful with it, so that hopefully it becomes a routine activity after a while. So what Sebastian and I are going to do today is I'm going to go through some of the statistics, what we're seeing out there in the world, some of the stories and what we've learned from them. Sebastian is then going to give you great information on keeping things safe, whether it's your email, social media, devices, etc. And then I'll end it up with some guidelines you can use for no cost or little cost at all, that makes a big contribution to keeping your information safe, both your business information, but you can apply it to your personal information at all. And then at the end, we have some great resources for you. One of the resources I really love to use, ITRC, Identity Theft Resource Center. They're a not-for-profit, and they actually track all confirmed data breaches and do some great reports on what the trends are. So looking at the last third quarter of 2024, when they did their statistics, they have confirmed 615 data breaches in the US, which basically exposed the data of 241 million people. They see it still happening in financial services because, of course, the bad guys want your money. Also, healthcare. There are not as many guidelines. There is not as many protections around healthcare information, and that can be very profitable for someone. Out there getting medical procedures and operations on your dime, basically, with your healthcare records. And professional services, that's associations, that's real estate brokerages, are also up there in the top for attacks. And they also talked about some of the ones that made the headlines, like AT&T, which I'll talk about, and others. Another great resource we use, the FBI. They have their IC3 division. Think of that as white collar for cybersecurity crimes. And they take a look at how our victims being caught up in cybersecurity hacks and breaches. Is it personal data breach? Is it through tech support or bad tech support? And you'll notice that the number one way that the bad actors get into systems and data is still via phishing. And Sebastian's going to talk about that today. But that it's easy, it's cheap for the hackers. And if you throw enough, spaghetti at the wall, something will stick. So that remains very popular. And the FBI also takes a look at monetary losses. What is it costing all of us for these data breaches and compromises. And you'll notice towards the top, BEC, business email compromise, $2.9 billion. Because very easy for me to craft an email, send it to someone. It really looks like it's coming from the broker that I'm working with on buying a home. I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm nervous and excited already, may not be reading very carefully, and end up wiring money to these criminals. And it often immediately ends up outside the US and most of the time is not recoverable. So it's not just exposing your data embarrassment, right, of we had a data breach, but it has a monetary significance to it as well. So a few things that we saw going on in the past year, and of course, we're all hearing about AI, right? How easy AI makes our lives when we're writing things, creating PowerPoints, putting together marketing copy or a blast email to the attendees of our event. And then we've moved on to the audio and the visual and the deep fakes. And that's exactly what happened to a very large multinational firm in Hong Kong. What happened in the end was the finance staff wired over $25 million to scammers. And it started with the staff in Hong Kong getting an email from the CFO, who is located in the United Kingdom. Looked pretty good, but they were like, yeah, I really need to make sure it's you. So they set up a video conference call with the CFO and other colleagues. And you're on right now a Zoom, and it looks like Kevin and Liz are real to me, and I'm hearing their voices, and I'm, yes, this is it. Okay. I didn't trust that email, but I'm trusting the image and the voices that I'm hearing. I'll wire that money. And the entire video call was a deep fake. So you really do have to be careful because the level of sophistication is unbelievable sometimes. Now, this one I thought was interesting. It was a real estate one. So a couple had posted their home on Zillow for sale by owner. A very nice house for $1.2 million. They withdrew it. They weren't going to end up selling it, but they left it online, and the hackers got in and took over the listing. They changed the price to $10,200. They included instructions that if you wanted a showing for the home, you had to pay $200. And that $200 went to the hackers. And it only came to light because, one, the homeowners were wondering why people were showing up at their home waiting for the supposed real estate agent to show it to them because they paid for the viewing. And one of the owner's relatives said, why did you list your home on Zillow for $10,000? So that's a lesson of any data that you have exposed. You want to make sure it's safeguarded, and you want to make sure you get rid of it when it's time to get rid of it, and just keep your eye on it. Now, this one I mentioned AT&T, and this is a lesson, and I'll talk about this at the end with third parties. And a large number of data breaches come about from your third parties, the people that are hosting your data, the consultants you're using to upgrade your software. And so AT&T had a data breach, and it compromised the personal information of almost 9 million of their customers. Now, it happened at one of their third-party cloud vendors where they were storing this information. So, it wasn't AT&T themselves. It wasn't AT&T staff who, took a phishing email or compromised anything. It was the third party. So you would think, well, yeah, it's the third party, go after them. But no, the FCC fined AT&T $13 million. The reason? Because AT&T failed to review their third party's cybersecurity. What's their data retention, security policy, cybersecurity training for the staff at the third party, and other protocols. AT&T said, yeah, no, they told us they do everything, and we were like, okay with that. Well, the FCC was not okay with that. The AT&T did not do their due diligence. So at the end, I will talk about what you need to do that's your responsibility, even when your data is stored or processed somewhere else. CrowdStrike, very big site, July 2024. They had a software update that inadvertently disrupted IT systems globally. About over 8 million systems crashed and they weren't able to properly restart them. You may have remembered with the airlines, right? I think it was Delta and American, their systems completely crashed. They were resorting to grabbing paper like in the old days to, write out boarding passes. And what the funny part of this story is Southwest Airlines didn't have any issues. And Southwest said, that's because our software is so old, we couldn't even upgrade it. So we didn't get caught up in this. I'm not sure if that's something to be proud of. Well, how did that happen? Was it hackers, foreign entities, bad actors? No. I mean, this is as simple as when they were doing their software upgrades, they did some code review and some regression testing. And then Microsoft made a change somewhere, and CrowdStrike did not go back and retest everything. So just be aware you can also take out your systems or bring down your client customer database or listing database by just not following some steps to make sure your software is good. And the more vulnerable your software is, the less you've done your testing, it makes it more open to somebody to come in and hack that software. So a lot of what we're going to see today and what we see every day, as I said, has to do with the human element. And that's what goes on most of the time. So now Sebastian is going to talk about the things that you need to look for and things you can do when looking at the security of your systems and data. Sebastian?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for the great intro. That last slide with the data security fighting with the human error, that's actually pretty cool one. And then it's unfortunately true that with all we can do, we always actually look into that human error, and the awareness is the key. Basically learning, what is out there to protect yourself. So today I will talk a little bit more about, some of the best practices and how you can protect yourself on a day-to-day basis. I will talk some details about data security, what is social engineering, what is email security, and device security. So let's start with the data security. So unfortunately nowadays, since we use all of these different devices, phones, laptops, we create a lot of data. Whatever we do, it actually creates the data. Either it's analytics or we actually create a document. Everything it's data. So data security is very important nowadays because this is also, it's attached to our digital identity. So when we speak about data security, we speak about four main things. Confidentiality, where we talk about protecting the data against unauthorized access. And when you think confidentiality and what actually that means with the security world, you will hear things like breaches. So the data can be breached and that will break the confidentiality. The second one is compliance. That's a new class, which, back in the days was not there, but now it's a big thing. It's all things with like your privacy or with, like your identity. The PII, which is always, kind of mentioned, the compliance, basically working on protecting the data, which should be also confidential. Integrity, it's about what happened with your data. Is it still real data? Things like ransomware, it actually hits the integrity because it encrypts all the data. So it's changed. And also ransomware kind of hits into availability because the data then is inaccessible. And when we also speak about availability of the data, we also speak about things like DDoS attacks, when they actually will make you not be able to access the data which you want to access. Can we go to next? So there is some things which you can do to protect your data. And I want to kind of mention the things which you should do and you should not. So I think the most important thing with data security is to know what data you have. You basically should review all your information which you store, and also have something which is called retention. You know, you may think that having the most of the data, it's the best, but it's actually not. Some data just should not be, hold for long, because you can have a lawsuit and then you can expose yourself to something which, you should not. So you definitely have to educate your employees or what type of data you have and how you keep that data. You also have to educate them on the proper retention. There need to be someone whose responsibility is to store properly the data, but also to delete it. So in the retention policy, you should say how to properly dispose the data. Because unfortunately, with computer world, if you just delete the file, it's not necessarily gone. It can still be somewhere there. And if someone will find it, you'll be liable for it. And the last one is the encryption. The encryption is the way to make the files only accessible for the people which should access. And for example, in a case like if these hackers come and try to steal your data, if data is encrypted, it will be not, they will be not able to use it. So it's important to do that. Simple tip, if you use your phone and you don't have a lock on your screen, please do that, because that's most likely will also encrypt all the data on your phone with actually that little key which you will created. So that's some of the do's which to do with the data. For the don'ts, I would say don't leave your information unattended. And then this is very critical because yes, we travel, we move around. So there is a ways to kind of, like put a screen protector, always lock your computer, put basically a password on your phone, because unfortunately, if you don't, and they get to your device, they will have it all right away. So be careful with that. Don't use the data for something which is not intended to use. Be careful with sharing the data from your company accounts, like from your email, with your personal accounts. And be careful also where you open the, like the confidential data. So for example, if you have like a shared computer in home, be careful to do that from there. It's better to have a dedicated device for that, since then you really, protecting that information from something which is called accidental breach, which is, the situation where not necessarily someone actually hack you, but you accidentally expose that information to the outside. Can we go to the next? Next, I would like to talk a little bit about social engineering. Social engineering, it's a type of attack which is, I would say, the most common because it's attacking the human weakness. We tend to be helpful. We basically, if someone asking a question, we usually try to answer. And these bad guys trying to exploit that. So they trying to trick the people, convincing them to hand the data or do some action. And the key here, it's the time. Usually they trying to make you do this something fast. So one way to solve yourself from this is like stop and think, something is not, true, then maybe don't provide it. If someone is asking you for the information, which not necessarily you think it should be public, don't just give it to them. I just want to explain a little bit the scenario on how these guys actually working to exploit you. So in the first step, these hackers or attackers, they will first, perform some of the form of the reconnaissance. And a lot of information is publicly available. There's a sites where they can type your name and they can look like for your address, where you work. They can use LinkedIn, Facebook, your public posts, what you like to do, who is your friends. And through that, they will create, a profile of you where they will figure out what will be the best way to attack. And in a lot of cases, they will use like an email. And they will spoof the email address, saying that they are basically connecting from someone and they will put the attachment of something which maybe will have an interest to you. And when you are not careful and you will open that email and actually download the file or go to the link, that thing can expose you to some malware. And malware, it's a software which will install behind the scenes, and will start do some action. In a lot of cases, these things like malware will steal your credentials, which means your passwords, sometimes your data, or will set up a persistent connection to these bad guys, so they actually will see whatever you do. So be very cautious with, opening like email attachments, downloading anything to your computer, because unfortunately, this is one step from these bad guys to get to your data and to your devices. Next, I want to talk a little bit about email security. So since, we spoke about social engineering, the most common way how they get into the people, it's actually through email. They also use something like smishing, which is like over the phone, and then you guys probably also getting some weird text sometimes. But emails, it's no different. And actually, with email, you can get a little bit more sophisticated attacks. So most the common attack is the phishing attack, which is designed to steal either your private information or make you to do something for them. Email spoofing, it's a technique to spoof the email address, which will look kind of like it's a real thing. They basically can remove one letter, add a space somewhere, add dash, which will look like, for example, Iris email can have like 2 dashes or something, and you will think it's the same address, but it's not, because each character basically changed the domain name. Spear phishing and walling attacks, that's something which is more sophisticated attacks. This is where that social engineering actually it's in place, because this is where they research you. So a lot of execs, a lot of CIOs, they're getting attacked with that type of attacks. Email spam and junk email, that's kind of, a random. So some of these bad guys send thousands, hundreds of thousands of emails with either some malware, with, some promotions that you will get, something for free. And they're just waiting for someone to click one of these emails. And then from there, they can install like an email virus or a malware on your computer, and they can get you. Can we go next? So here I just have a little example of phishing email. And again, what is the key here? Time. They're trying to trick you to quickly go through this, don't think, click the link, and basically put them in their, a scheme of scam. So you can see that, the from, it's kind of created with some dashes, which looks like a valid email, but not necessarily is. It is always good to go to the source. And when I'm saying source, don't use the information which is provided in that email, because the phone number, the address of the company, everything can be spoofed. So really, if you know the company, go to their website, find their domain number, and call them directly. Don't ever call from the number which is provided in the email, because in a lot of these cases, they also will change that, and they are ready for that phone call and to pretend to be that company. So be careful, really, and look for those red flags. And I think the best approach here is like stop and think, use common sense. If you were really not expecting something to get, just don't open it. Call them, review it. Can you go to the next, Chris? So some of the, do's and don'ts with the email. I think important thing is use your spam filter. And if you work for some organization, then most likely you already have that set up. If it's more for your like a private stuff, most of these bigger brands of the email providers, they do have some spam filter. So if something will end up in spam, don't just move back this to your inbox, because there was some reasons why it's in spam. So be very careful with moving anything which go to the spam to your inbox. Use multi-factor. Unfortunately, nowadays, password security, it's not good enough. If you just have a password and, and maybe you're actually using that password on multiple sites, there is a big chance that your password's already breached and it's on the dark web, which is like a hacker database with user credentials. So use multi-factor, just in case if they get your password, then you will have to have that second way of authenticating to your account. And probably me and then Chris will also ask this, use common sense. if you really were not expecting to get something, and you're getting that super offer about, like a gift card or something which really it doesn't look, it's too good to be true, just don't open it. Most likely it's a scam. So be careful with any of these unsolicited emails which go into your inbox, because they're just trying to fish, so you can think that the whole network is like a big ocean, and they just throwing those nets and then trying to pick, someone from that big ocean. So it can be sometimes like a sales stuff, which is not necessarily harmful, but in a lot of cases, it also can be malicious. And then sometimes one click can make the whole organization actually, be put on their knees. I see the places where they actually, through one email, they get like a ransomware attack, and then weeks after, they still try to resolve that. So don't open any attachments which you don't know or you are not expecting to get. Like my rule is that if I was not asking someone to send me something like an attachment, I really will never open it. And I will go and call them or text them if I know the person and ask, hey, are you really were sending this to me? Because in a lot of cases, there's something called like business email compromise. And one of the people which usually you do some communication with, his email maybe get hacked. And then these bad actors can send you something which you really you will think it's good, but it will be not good for you as well. Can we go to next, Chris? And then lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about device security. I know we all using devices, and when I speak devices, it's either phones, laptops, and nowadays devices is also which are connected to the internet. It can be even your refrigerator, which is, kind of funny, not funny that, now your refrigerator actually can hack you if you don't take some steps, So when you're working from home, you need to make sure that your network which you use to do the business is segregated from all of these IoT devices, because there's cases that actually happen, and some of these devices are connected to the Wi-Fi, and that would be pretty silly if you tell someone that your refrigerator hacked you. So create strong passwords. It's very good tip, but passwords alone are not good. You need to have a multi-factor authentication. Keep your devices always locked, especially if you're traveling or you're moving around. Put also a pin on your phone. For any of you guys which do not have a pin, I hope after this presentation you will actually do that, because that's like just giving away all the information which you have on your phone. And nowadays the phone has a lot of stuff, like it has our accounts, it has our passwords. So be very careful with how you handle your phone. Always use VPN when connecting on the public networks. Here, actually, I would say another tip. It's probably better to not use any public networks. Instead of using VPN, I would rather use your phone Wi-Fi. Connect to your phone instead of to the public networks. Now we are not getting most likely charged, any extra money if you connect to your phone. So use your phone instead. Public networks are actually very dangerous. It's very easy to set up a type of a network. Like I saw places like on the airport where they basically mimic the airport network, and whoever connects to it, all the information which you put it there, it's already in the hand of the hacker, which means all your passwords, you can access your bank information, and they will get it, all of it. From things to not, which you should not do it, especially with the phones, it's be careful with downloading apps from, I would say, not certified sources. So always use like the, official app stores, and be careful with your kids, because kids, they look for these different free apps and they put on your phone. And unfortunately, a lot of these apps open basically your privacy. So things to check on your phone is which apps has access to what on your phone. And there, on the iPhone, there's actually a setting where you can go on the privacy, and you can see if the app has access to your microphone, to your camera, to the documents, even to your emails. Because I don't know if you guys know this, that let's say we talk now about the security, and soon in 5 minutes you're getting that email saying, hey, you have an offer about this protection things or whatever. Or we talk about vacation, and in 10 seconds you're getting an email that you want to go for a vacation. It's because your phone listening to you. And if you don't, make sure the settings in your phone are set up correctly, it will be recording everything what you do and sell your data to all of these people, which not necessarily can be malicious, but it can be too, because some of these apps can be created by like Chinese government just to steal the information which we have. And I will kind of get back to a password issue, that you should not use the same password for everything. Chris probably will mention some of additional things which happened, for example, like Facebook. If you use the same password on Facebook on anything else, then guess what? Facebook getting hacked every year. So if that password is out there, they already have it. And if you don't have a multi-factor, yes, they can basically log into the other, things that you have. And these hackers, they will know what you use. They will check Google, because a lot of people use Google. They will check Yahoo. They will also use your username, which usually you put like your first name, last name, or first initial, last name, and they will log in and they can steal your identity very quickly. So be very careful with that. It's better to use like a password manager. So use one like a very strong password with the password manager, and then store a different password for each of these websites in the manager. And people will say, well, these also get hacked. But, even if they get hacked, it will be much harder for them to actually retrieve your password, because these companies, they put multiple controls for these passwords. So even like, I know one password get hacked, but all the information was encrypted. So even when they get it, maybe they will be able to reveal it in 60 years. But for a couple of next years, you'll be fine. So it's better to use the password manager. And I just want to finish, I think, with this, and then give the mic back to Chris. And if there's any questions, we can answer them at the end.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. So much information and great information that you can apply, as I said, both to your business and to your personal data. So a few things I think are the most important that will not cost you any money, and Sebastian mentioned this, is every business should have a data retention and destruction policy. You need to start with identifying the business records you have, whether they're on paper or electronic. I always say just, hey, storage, hard drive storage is cheap and we have an extra file cabinet is not a retention policy. Try to figure out how long you need it. Also, please consult with your accountants or attorneys when it comes to financial records. The IRS has guidelines on that. State law usually does, if it's association board meeting minutes, bylaws, tenant records. So do make sure you're following the rules and the laws on that retention as well. Now, the big problem is I have seen a lot of folks come up with great data retention policies. They identify what the information is, where is it stored, and how long should we keep it. They'll even create a spreadsheet, so next to each one is that information plus the data destruction date, suitable for framing. And yet, when push comes to shove, they are not actually destroying the records. And that is where the problem comes in, both in terms of embarrassment and cost. Several years ago, Capital One had a data breach, not at theirs, but at a third party, which I'll talk about. And the bad hacker got a hold of 15 years worth of credit card applications. I was like, 15 years, you're a bank. They needed to worry a little less about what's in your wallet and a little more about what was on their file server. Another one, just a few months ago, I got a letter in the mail from Ticketmaster notifying, as they should, there had been a data breach, offering, a year's free worth of credit reporting. I could not remember the last time I had used Ticketmaster. I had to call my sister-in-law and she said, oh, Chris, remember it was that thing we went to 10 years ago, 10 years. there was no need for Ticketmaster to keep that data for 10 years. And even though I already have credit reporting in place, I still took advantage of the free credit reporting because it's free to me, but Ticketmaster had to pay for it. And I thought, well, I'm going to punish them a little bit. So again, it's embarrassing. We had a real estate brokerage a few years ago that had a data breach, did everything right, reported it, sent out the letters, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of real estate agents were like, whoa, I haven't worked for this brokerage in 15, 20 years. So it's the embarrassment. It's the cost, because now you have to notify everyone who was in the database that was compromised via snail mail. And that's very expensive. So no need to keep it longer than you need to. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with keeping statistics or data in the aggregate. We do that with our meetings area. They don't need the actual registrations from NAR's annual convention 15 years ago. They don't. So that's destroyed. But they do have, you know, how many attendees were from these states, how many attendees were first-time attendees. And that's fine if you want to keep that information in statistic form. And then the next thing, and Sebastian mentioned this as well, is password management. You know, I always picture in my head, you know, with the music from Mission Impossible playing behind me as somebody's rappelling down a high rise at 2 in the morning and has a special glass cutter to get into, you know, the office, and they have their drive and they're going to steal the data, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, yeah, that's great for a movie, but the easiest is to walk up to your front door, turn over the fake rock and get the key out. That's what hackers want. They don't want to spend money on this. And so let's not make it easier for them. As Sebastian mentioned, please do not use the same password everywhere. You don't want to find out that LinkedIn had a data compromise, the bad guys got a hold of passwords, and then you go, oh my gosh, it's the same password I use for my bank. Because these people will try them. They will take those passwords, as Sebastian mentioned, sitting on the dark web, and they'll try them everywhere. And there have been big companies that have been breached because their own IT or system engineering people used a password somewhere like Facebook or LinkedIn that they also used at work. So please, please be very careful with that. Now, passwords can get complicated, long and complicated, and hard to remember. And so we do say, check out password vaults or password managers. Then you only need one very long, complicated password to get into the vault. And once in there, you have the passwords for your individual sites so that you can have different passwords everywhere. And also, again, please look into two-factor authentication. So that way, if somebody does get the password to your customer or client database, they still can't get in without that additional code coming through via a phone call or a text message for two-factor auth. Now, here's something I really want to emphasize, because when we look at the latest data breaches, AT&T, Capital One, big healthcare companies, it's always mainly come through third-party access. So you need to be very vigilant about third parties. You can't just brush off your responsibility or your liability, as AT&T discovered with that very large fine. Wherever your data is, you need to make sure that you have an inventory, right? Where you have some data where Amazon Cloud Services or Microsoft Azure or your accountant office or the payroll company you use, showing software that you use that's hosted by a third party. Please know who has what and what data they have. The other thing you need to know is do an audit of those third parties. Get your legal, get your attorneys involved to make sure that they are reviewing those agreements. Who's responsible for what? Does that third party do a security audit each year? Can you get the results? Did they ever have a breach? If so, how did they handle it? Do they train their own employees on cybersecurity? Most important, I think, use and misuse. So it doesn't mean that third party's getting hacked. It means you're telling that third party, this is the use of the data. So they can't take it and go, "Ooh, I'm going to send marketing emails to all these clients because I have their emails." So please make sure that's all in place, because when you have a data breach, right, it's really not going to be, happy days cloud service in the headline news. Oh, they'll be mentioned in the article, but the headline will say AT&T, Capital One, Realtors Association. So I think this is one of the most important things. Next, inventory. Inventory, who, what, where, both with your staff, your employees, if you're an association, agents at a brokerage. What is an inventory of all of the staff, the agents, and what systems do they have access to? We do this here at NAR, right? Of course, we all have access to our email, but some of our staff have access to our bank. Some of our staff have access to our PAC reporting systems, our meeting systems. These are all different third parties. Because when someone leaves, if they leave the association or they leave your brokerage, you can immediately cut off access to your own systems or, turn off their email. But you also need to know what other systems they had access to, because you need to cut off that access as well. You don't want to be left wondering when Mary walks out the door whether or not she also was able to log into your payroll system. So please make sure you're prepared for that as well. And a big thing, and Sebastian talked about this as well, data privacy and protection. That's been a big buzzword in the last several years. A lot of this is getting tightened up. It started with the European Union. You may remember when they came out with GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. And that protects residents of the European Union. A lot of different rules they have about data protection, who can see the data, what you can do with the data, the person whose data you have, what their rights are, etc. Now, currently, there is not in the US a federal data protection and privacy law. There just is not. They've tried the different committees several times and never quite got off the ground, and other things came up. So they never came to an agreement yet. There are a few specialized ones like HIPAA, which protects medical institutions and personnel from sharing data and how they share it and who they share it with. But other than that, there isn't a federal one. So a lot of states have taken up the slack. Some of the first states to do so were California, Colorado, and Virginia. So if you have any members, if you're an association in those states, if you have any clients or agents or customers in those states, please be aware that you are responsible for those states' data protection and privacy. So it doesn't matter where you're located. It matters where the people whose data you have are located. And because NAR has members in every state, we are responsible for knowing every state's laws for those states who have them. And it usually covers things like what you can do with data, what you can't do with data, what the rights of the person whose data you have is, how you report breaches, how you notify people that your data has been breached, etc. So please make sure you're aware of those laws in the states in which you have data of people who are residents of that state. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about, and I know this is really hard for our realtor members, keeping the personal private, because as they always say, realtors are people persons, right? You deal with a lot of different people in person, online, in all sorts of business relationships. So it's hard sometimes to say to yourself, oh, I need to make sure I'm not oversharing, but you want to be careful about that. And one of the reasons why, all the confirmed data breaches that have been going on in the last 5 years. Sebastian mentioned Facebook, one of our perennial favorites. They can't go a year without some kind of data compromise or breach. Bank of America, ChatGPT, which I thought was fascinating, Also, in terms of keeping data private, if you're using the free ChatGPT, please know that everything you put in there is now available to the world. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to do a blast email to my client base and I'll have to load them all into ChatGPT, just know that you've just shared it with the entire world. And when they get hacked, now it's all over the place. Capital One, LifeLock, 23andMe. Now that was a scary one. Like, oh, great. Now everybody has, all of my genetic information. Well, one of the reasons for these type of breaches is exactly what Sebastian talked about was social engineering. I need to really convince you that I am your CFO. I am the broker of your firm. I am the CEO of the association. And I do that by trolling through the dark web, looking at all these data breaches. Orbitz, was it about getting money or things like that? No, it was about getting travel records. Marriott, now I know you've stayed at a Marriott. Bank of America, 23andMe. Hey, we had that conversation last week about how we both found out we have ancestors from Kazakhstan. Oh, that's really interesting. Now I can craft an email, spear phishing, whale phishing, as Sebastian mentioned. I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff in there about my vacation, where I stayed, what we talked about, and now you will be absolutely convinced I am who I say I am. Great. It didn't take me much to do that, but the benefits can be great from that. So just be aware of what you're sharing. I told that to my nieces when they were younger. One of them was putting all sorts of things on Facebook. And I was like, Carrie, really, why don't you just sign up at the serial killer's website? Because now they know everything about you. So share, of course, but hold back a bit on the private information. Because the hackers are relying on one thing, and Sebastian mentioned this as well, and we're all humans. We do not want to change that. These are good things, right? But remember, we start from a position of trust. We want to help others, and especially folks that are in the association and realtor world. You want to help others and to deliver service quickly. Well, hackers know that. So they're going to try and take advantage of that because they know that those are our qualities. So a lot of times when people ask me, hey, Chris, what are great tools? Like what malware should I buy or firewalls or VPNs? And I always say the best tool is the free one, and that is common sense. And I've been using this slide in presentations to our members, our associations, and NAR staff for probably 10 years now. It's always stop, wait, and ask yourself, right? It doesn't take much time to do that, and it's a lot shorter time to do this up front than cleaning up a mess on the back end. Would this person normally email you that request? Your bank or your credit card company sent you an email. Well, one of the things I can tell you, working years at NAR with our realtor e-commerce network and knowing all the banks and credit card companies, they all say they will never, ever send you an email or a text. Click here to confirm your username and password, or click here to log in. Something's wrong with your account. They will never do that. So just know all of those emails are indeed a scam. Is this someone you've been working with? Sometimes I'll get an email from Joey and here's the Google Docs. I don't use Google Docs, so I know that's not legitimate. Is this attachment correct? And we really emphasize this here with NAR staff when COVID hit and a lot of remote work was going on. You didn't have that herd immunity of sitting next to each other and yelling out, hey, did anyone else get this attachment? It doesn't look right to me. And realtors, of course, are mainly out there, on the road, showing listings, meeting with clients, rather than everyone all in the office at the same time. So you just need to make sure you communicate more. A phone is a great way to call people, or as Sebastian mentioned, text people that so that you can share and understand, is this right? Does this make sense? Because it's so easy to click a link. And if you do, and this is what we tell our staff as well, no shame, no blame. If you have found you've opened up an attachment or clicked a link, immediately get a hold of your computer folks, your IT folks, so you can mitigate any damage done. Believe it or not, just disconnecting your laptop from the network you were on or Wi-Fi immediately is a good way to stop it from going any further than your own laptop, computer, or phone. So you always take those few minutes to ask. And then finally, I want to talk about some of the resources that Sebastian and I use for this presentation. I think are great resources. Don't forget NAR.realtor. We have wonderful data privacy and security resources online put together by our IT folks, our legal area, our advocacy group, really good checklists, guidelines, working with first-time buyers, how to make your communication more secure with your clients, webcasts. So really great stuff on NAR's website. I mentioned the Identity Theft Resource Center. I really like these folks because they do post immediately confirmed data breaches. Because a data breach of Capital One, that's going to make the headline news, but a data breach of your dentist's office, probably not. But this is a great way to see what's going on. The FBI has a great site, IC3, fantastic statistics on the consequences of these cyber crimes, the costs, the number of victims, data exposed. And another one I really love is Verizon's data breach report. It's free. They come out with one each year. So 2024 is out there now. What happened in 2024? And they also break it down by industry, personal services, professional services like real estate, financial services, sort of the trends, what's going on. And whoever writes it also has a sense of humor. So it's also a fun read as well. So I really encourage everyone to take advantage of those resources because, as I said in the beginning, cyber awareness is just, you hear these things, you learn these things, hopefully it becomes muscle memory. And if you keep up to date with what's going on, it will help you become more aware of something that may not look right or something that may potentially compromise your data and data security. So Kevin, I'll turn it over to you for any questions anyone may have or anything else that you have.
Sure. So we'll just go ahead and check the chat really quick. Have you answered anything from the chat yet?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. What are some good VPNs for personal use?
I'll throw that out to Sebastian. Sebastian, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, so it depends what you're trying to accomplish. If it's, if it's for security or maybe you want to watch a show from Europe, because there's different purpose for the VPN. But there is something called NordVPN or Proton, which are pretty secure. Unfortunately, they are also used by the bad guys. So sometimes if you use it, you can block. I think a good tip is for your home, you can use something like Norton. Norton actually provide a bundle, and if you buy a bundle with them, you will get the VPN, you will get like the identity lock, dark web monitoring, VPN. They also will give you a password manager. So Norton actually has a pretty good tool. I'm not selling the product, so I will not tell you how much is it. But for the home use, you can use that, and I think it's up to 5 devices.
Okay, great.
Do you have any other questions, Kevin? Do you want me to just go to the chat?
Sorry. Yes. So the next question is, it's a 2-in-1. You're lucky. Okay. First of 2 questions is, what do you think about using Face ID to open your phone and other accounts? And then the follow-up question to that, can you consider apps on the Apple App Store to be vetted/safe to download?
Well, for the Face ID, I think it's a great idea to use it. It's it's a little bit different approach than just using a PIN. Is it perfect? Well, it's not, but I would say it's much better than not having anything. And then if we speak about apps, yeah, if you use the Apple Store, then most likely all of these apps are actually vetted, and they actually are checked, against some of the malware, and that's where you should get the apps. So Google also, like Microsoft also has their own professional app store. All of these big brands, they do have it, but you know, I said kids because kids usually will watch a YouTube and they will find the link that you can get something for free from somewhere, and then they can jeopardize your phone. So just be careful with that.
Very good. Okay, this one's interesting. I think this is a great question because I hear about this all across the nation. So let's get into it. This person has had contacts, mostly buyer prospects, wanting to have a conversation via WhatsApp. Some leave a phone number, and when this person skip tracks the number, the name does not match the prospect's name. When this person contacts them saying they'd rather call their phone, they disappear. Their question is, what data is on WhatsApp that someone can steal?
So based on their website, the data, which is there, it's encrypted, and they do provide also encryption for the connection. However, WhatsApp, it's an app, and since you can get like a hyperlinks, it's kind of like email. So you have to be careful because that phone number inside of that message, it can be a script which will redirect your phone to connect to something which it's not necessarily WhatsApp. So yeah, WhatsApp, it's tricky. I think there is a setting where you can set that if someone is not in your contact list, they cannot just send you whatever. And it's just a spoof, like you guys just said, that they finding out that the phone number provided, it's not a real thing. So it's kind of the same thing which you can do with the emails. I'll be just careful with clicking anything. If you are not expecting someone, to send you something, it's the same rule. Don't just click. If they send you something, just ask them or provide them another mean to provide the information. And then again, validate if it's a real person, because WhatsApp, it's kind of an international app, and it can easily be used by someone from China, India, and some other countries where not necessarily there's any law, so to protect you from the attack.
Okay, and then somebody had requested to put the recommended VPN usage in the chat so that they can read it.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
doing that
And then
now.
this next part is for everybody who wants to participate. If you are in Miami and you win, you can stop by our headquarters to get a prize. If not, we'll have to get a creative on how to get you the prize. Otherwise, you'll have the option between a money clip and a purse hanger. But please scan the QR code if you would like to participate in today's quiz. This quiz goes over all topics that were discussed on the class today. So CJ, thanks for joining. Ronnie, thank you to you. I'll give it a few more seconds before we start this quiz. Anybody who is in this class is welcome to play. The intention of this is to help with retention of what you have just learned. Right now we have 3 players. Can we get 5 players on here? We got 4. Let me get 1 more. All right, we got 5, 6. Okay, I'm going to start here in about 10 seconds. Make sure we got everybody on here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And you will answer your questions through the phone. Of the top 5 cyber crimes reported to the FBI, which breach method is used the most often? Whoever said phishing, you are correct. Congratulations. Wait, did we freeze up? All right. And Ronnie, first one to come in with the answer. So he's in the lead with 91 points. Question 2, get ready. You will answer on your phone. What is two-factor authentication? Excellent. Everybody pretty much got it right. Love the creative answers. So yes, so what you want is an additional safeguard in addition to the password. Typically, they will send you a text, an email, to when somebody logs into the site to make it a little extra secure. I know people have lost their Instagram accounts because they have not had two-factor authentication. Would highly recommend all of your social media to be, and more, to be two-factor authenticated. All right, Ronnie's still in the lead, but we got people creeping up. Next question. This is true or false? It is false. There are some local areas that have them, but nationally there isn't one. All right, we have a new winner. Ronnie is now in third place. Things can change fast. And congrats to the Polka Dot Duchess for getting the longest streak. Now, if you just answer faster. Oh, no, you're in the lead. What am I kidding? All right, question 4. What is the first thing to look at in an email to determine if it's a phishing attempt? Answer. That is correct. From the addresses, URL, and domain. So look at the domain, look at the email. Those are usually clear giveaways. Polka Dot Duchess still in the lead. 3 more questions to go. How do you protect your passwords? All right, you guys are starting to learn. Did the Polka Dot Justice answer in time? Oh, yes. Still in the lead, but Jennifer is creeping up. Ronnie still in position to strike as well. All right, question 6. How do you protect data on a stolen laptop or phone? Yeah, this was all the answers were correct. I just wanted to make sure to see where you guys were going with this. Interesting that keep your data's device encrypted is the most accurate answer, and that was the correct answer in the quiz as well that they sent. But these are all right answers too. Polka Dot Duchess did answer in time. She's also rocking the longest streak. We have 1 question left. Can she hold it? What is data integrity? All right, everybody participated, got it correct, which means we should have our winner. Ooh, it was close, but Polka Dot Duchess, congratulations for the victory. Can we call you? Let's call. Let's call. I guess Polka Dot Duchess doesn't want to answer, but if you're on the screen, you can go ahead, pop up here, and give an acceptance speech, or not. I think you're on mute. If it was Kathleen.
It's me.
Oh, well, congratulations, Lisa. Any final words for the class today?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I'm going to give my staff the same test.
Excellent. I can actually forward you that info, and I will be sending everybody the recording of this class next week, so you can also send that as well. Are you in Miami-Dade?
No, Boise, Idaho.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Chris.
If you see me at a national conference, remind me that I owe you a prize. We'll figure out what I
Okay.
get you, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you for playing, everybody, and thank you for tuning in today. We will be hosting a tech topic every first Tuesday of the month. The next class that we will be hosting is April 1st. So we hope to see you there. It'll be hosted by our Chief of Innovation, Liz Sturrock, and it'll be all about 6 AI tools that you can implement into your business immediately. Liz, you want to talk about it at all?
Yeah, so we'll make sure that you guys have really good takeaways. So it's not just AI theory and AI safety, though we'll cover that just a little bit, but make sure you have tools that you can use and implement from day one. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Liz. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Really cool to see people all across the nation. We'll be hosting some sort of virtual education either on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time or our Tech Tuesdays, the first Tuesdays of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we're just getting started. If there's any topics you want us to teach about, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You will be getting the recording, like I said, next week. So you can reach out to me, Kevin Porcelli, if you have something you want to learn, and we'll try and get a qualified instructor on here for you. Until next class, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm going to be on my laptop.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I have a full purse.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm eating before I leave.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm sneaking out for shopping.
We're YPN leaders.
Of course we're going to be creating content.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm signing up for classes.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm Cafecito obsessed.
I'm a YPN leader. Of course I'm going to crash the next happy hour.
Give up on my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me. Wouldn't it be crazy? But you still amaze me.